All right. Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
So, Nick has been very, very, very busy. If most of you haven't realized, just in communications and other stuff, work stuff, home stuff, life stuff. So he really didn't have time to host these meetings anymore. So I talked to him about a week ago or so, 2 weeks, something like that. And we talked about it, and I said, instead of not having him, I would substitute for him, while he's busy. So, not a replacement, but just subbing in to keep the conversation going, if you will. Um, did all you guys get the copy from the last meeting, the email you had sent out earlier in the week?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Um, let's let Lou in. You there, Lou?
Hey there.
I guess I shouldn't have started so early. Hold on. Yep, there's a couple more people I just want to let in. Um, And just so all of you know, I've never done this before besides being on a meeting. So if you all get disconnected, it was my fault. Um,
Okay.
okay. I think everyone's in. So yeah, just kind of recapping from a couple notes I made from last month's meeting, just updates on where we are as far as projects with the dam goes. There's still been a lot of questioning, and I guess we still don't have an exact answer, but our intended date to open the dam is June 15th. That's our intended date until the permits is signed by the DEP, which goes at the speed of the DEP. That's not written in stone. If something was to happen, we would have to move it back and open it July 1st. But that information hasn't changed. That's all the information we have. I think we mentioned this back in January or so, that this is a, 3 or 4 month process, between getting the permitting, approvals, so on and so forth. So that's, again, the intended date is June 15th. The other thing, since the last meeting, I believe, or at least it wasn't available, the town of Sabattus had their planning board meeting, and the project was approved from the town of Sabattus. So that obstacle has been taken care of. All of the contracts with the construction company and with the various, federal and state authorities and everything have been signed or are in the process of getting signed. There's some of these, certain criteria has to be met before you can go to the next step, to get the next signature. But everything pretty much is in process. We're having a pre-construction meeting with the construction company coming up at the dam to go over the timeline and everything for the project itself. So at this point, it seems like things are moving in the right direction. The timeline is probably still what we discussed, hoping to finish up with the majority of the work this year. And then if there's some, minor details or things to finish up, they'll be done the beginning of next year.
Gary, you think I know this already from being around for a bit, but it's at 6:15, or it's anyone who knows. What are we thinking by how many weeks will it take for it to really be noticeable that, okay, all the fun's over? Couple of weeks or longer than that, or?
Longer than that.
Yeah.
Again, no crystal ball, so I cannot tell you if
right.
we're going to get 4 inches of rain in 3 hours on
Right, yeah.
16th, or if we're not going to get a drop from now until then. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, there isn't a crystal ball. Most estimates we're looking at are like 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
Things aren't out of the ordinary. And again, we're going to be opening, when we open them, they're really going to be removing the gates. So
Right.
going to be even more that, more pronounced than it normally was, or like last year.
Right, right. Okay.
Now, how
Thank-
much does it drop per day? Is there an idea?
Don't quote me on this, but
Sure.
I want to say it's 3 inches a day.
3 inches a day.
Yes. Don't quote me on this. I'm not as good as some of the other people that have been around longer with stats and statistics, but yes, I believe it's around 3 inches a day. Yeah. And again, it goes down quicker when you first open it because there's more water to push through the dam.
Sure.
Just like, anything that's draining, so the higher it is when we open it, the quicker it's going to go, and then it's going to level off, and it's going to seem like, it's barely draining at all.
Okay.
So, yeah, like I said, those were the notes I had. Does anyone have any other questions as far as the project with the dam, or, need any more information?
No?
No.
Okay. Okay. Um, I wanted to share with you, I'm going to try this if I can. Um, all right, can you see that?
Good job.
Yep,
Can you see that?
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. All right. So this is the 2025 CWSRF application 3 form, which Nick has been working on. I'm assuming this is something that he'll distribute by email to everyone. But again, this is just one of the steps that, he's taking and the association is taking as far as getting everything in order to get grants and to move forward with the quality assessment on the lake. I believe that's what it's called. And again, I'm not going to go through this in a lot of detail. I've, just got it a day ago or so, but just kind of getting you up to date that, things are still moving, and, as far as on getting things approved and in order. And then this is the actual watershed pre-planning and assessment form. Can you guys see that? Or not? Can you see
Same
that?
page,
What's that?
the same page as you had.
It is. All right, give me a second then. Hold on. Back to
You're not sharing anymore.
yeah, I think I
Probably
mentioned
try
I
just
think I
scroll,
mentioned this was my first time.
Yeah.
scroll down on the pages.
I'm just showing it. So can you see the pathway to projection?
yes, yep.
Okay. Okay. So this is the other document that Nick has been working on to secure, and again, don't quote me on this completely, but to secure the funding to do the assessment of the lake. This is basically, the first building block in that process, if you will. And again, I'm sure that he can distribute this by email, but just to give you kind of a quick look at it, it's 9 pages, encompasses all of the things, that have to be done to keep this process moving forward. And I don't know, do you want me to go slower so you guys can read this, or you're good with getting it in an email?
Nick, I mean, Nick, I'm
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like I said, I'm just a substitute.
Nick, you grew a beard, so
Exactly. Yeah, I got a lot older.
I'm happy to talk about what I know about this because we did have a conversation, the executive committee or whatever we call ourselves.
Sunday night, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm happy to sort of go over what he talked to
That'd be
us about with
that'd be
this, if you want me to.
wonderful. Yep,
Okay.
that'd be wonderful. Because again, I got the email, but I'm
Yeah,
not.
no, that's fine. And Donna's here, and Donna, feel free if I screw it up. But my understanding is that we have put in what's called a 604B grant proposal for 2 years, one for research and 1 year for actual report writing. Originally, we were going to go for the bigger grant, but the Androscoggin Conservation Group is too busy. So instead, what we're doing is going for this grant. But this still, if we get this, this still moves us forward. And when we go for the bigger grant, we just wouldn't have to do what we would be doing in this 2-year period if we got this grant. The proposal calls for um, about $16,000. So again, when we applied for the bigger grant, it would be the amount minus the 16,000. It's asking for $8,000. And I think in here it breaks it down what the $8,000 is for. And then an in-kind donation of people doing things for tabulated at $8,000. That covers, and I think I have this right, 1 day of 2-hour training for 14 people uh, who would participate in the watershed survey, and then 8-hour day of actually doing it. And in the proposal, he factors in X amount. I don't remember the exact amount per hour.
Yeah.
$30.
Or is it
Yeah,
30?
I'll
Okay.
scroll down to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 to 4 members from the SWPC surveying planning committee, 6 hours each per person, 20 hours work of writing letters, sending letters, reviewing materials. So just to give you a rough sense, and you can look at it as Gary said, you're on your own, but it's $8,000 of a bunch of work being done by volunteers to help us um, fulfill the mandate of this 2-year work if we get the grant. I think the he told us Nick told us the evaluation of the various proposals and the decision should come by the end of May. And Donna, correct me if I'm wrong, but he seemed pretty positive that we had a good shot at this.
Exactly.
So so I'm sorry if I wasn't 100% clear, but hopefully I gave you the gist of what this is all about and
Yeah, no, that's great. So I mean, so that's fairly soon that they'll get the
yeah.
an answer on it.
So Anthony, this is part of the watershed survey you're talking?
Yeah, yeah. Originally, I think the plan was to do a proposal for one much bigger grant.
Yeah.
And I think the reason he said was the Androscoggin Conservation Group is too busy and we wouldn't be able to compete for it. So he decided to go for this one instead. This is a 2-year grant. And if we get it, it just means what we asked for with the bigger grant will be less. So we get this still moves us forward to what we want to do. And yeah, it's doing the research um, of the watershed, and then writing the report.
What does bigger grant, what is that? I'm not sure what that is.
That's the grant he's talked about before, to do the things we need to do to get the evidence we need to show what's going on with the water.
Okay.
Um, and I can't speak exactly to. I don't recall who we're trying to get money from for that grant, but this is one that is just smaller and shorter in scope, but it's still pretty much part of what we want to ultimately do.
So it's also dependent on a lot of people volunteering, am I right? Or is
Yeah,
that?
right. That $8,000 in-kind donation involves a certain number of people chipping in different ways. Now, I mean, obviously, if he says 20 hours work, writing letters, sending letters, reviewing materials, the more people you have, the less hours work it is, right? But it's an estimate of how much time all of this will take.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony. Very good.
Is this included in the website?
Nope. I have it by email. I was gonna say, and I'm sure Nick will watch this, but I'm sure he can send the link out. He had just sent me these 2 attachments in an email.
Just have him forward the attachments.
Yeah, like yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that something, Anthony, that we will do somehow when it all comes about? For me, it's hard to follow everything on the Zoom meeting.
Yeah. That's why I said it's gonna be easier if, yes, he just emails it and everyone can.
So if I want to volunteer in some way, I will know how to do that because I'm not a writer. I don't want to write, but I don't mind volunteering some other way to help, obviously. But so I wonder how they're going to, when we get to that point, will we have a better means of communicating? Is that what we plan on doing?
Yeah, and then sort of imagine we'll be able to say, okay, we got the grant. Here's what we need people to volunteer for. And I don't want to speak for everybody, but I imagine it would sort of be, hey, here are the different tasks. Sign up for something that you feel comfortable with, that you feel you have a skill set, whatever it might be.
Beautiful. Sounds good, Anthony. Thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully we get, I think, Donna, do you remember if we got it when it would, like, when this would start? Would it be right away in the summer? I don't, I assume, but I don't remember 100%.
Didn't the timeline say winter of 2025 that it started?
That it would start, okay.
Yeah, because anything in the water is gonna be hard to do this year.
I
Yeah,
don't even want to think about winter 2020.
6.
We have a whole spring and summer ahead of us. I don't
Yep.
want to think about winter.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens after the dam rebuild and start 26. Very good. Thank you, Anthony. That's good.
So does anyone else have some any news from about the lake since the last meeting or things going on around town?
No, I don't have any of that, but at some point I'd like to ask for some help.
Well, you might as well then.
I need some help. I put out on our webpage a while back a bunch of things talking about algae blooms and how
Awesome. Yes. Yep. They're all awesome links. Loved them all.
they. What I need help with is my wife is trying to help me. How do I spread that information? Now I mentioned making postcards. She said nobody does that anymore, Wayne. You got to do social media. I was able to take a couple of those things and somehow spread them out beyond this group. And I need, how do you do that?
You mean on Facebook or beyond Facebook?
My wife mentioned Instagram, Facebook,
TikTok, make a
TikTok. I don't know how to do those things. I'm a,
reach other people.
yeah. And I
Yeah,
have got a couple, sent them to Nick today. One of them shows how phosphorus get in the water, that little picture of cows on the field and phosphorus going in and runoff from the mountain. Those things. And I was going to go have some postcards printed with those on them and hand them out at the town halls in the 3 towns. And Jeannie says, well, I
don't know if they're cost effective.
yeah, I don't know if they're cost effective. So I need some help because I don't do it. And
Well, we have an Instagram page. There's 26 followers, and only 8 posts. So that we'd want to sort of advertise to people on Facebook and say, we also have an Instagram page, share the page and follow the page. So that's one way, and then post it there. I don't know if you've done this, Wayne, but sometimes when I've posted stuff on other Sabattus pages.
I have.
Thing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what other ideas people have in terms of how we get this stuff out beyond the Facebook page, beyond social media for people who aren't on social media.
Yeah, and again, that would be my question. Wayne, so Wayne, you posted it on the fishing page?
On the Sabattus Pond Watershed project page.
No, but did you post it on the fishing page?
I don't know if I've seen the fishing page.
Then try that. So there's a Sabattus Pond, I think it's just fishing page or whatever it is, on Facebook.
On Facebook.
Yep.
Okay.
So could do that. The other one I was gonna say is
Other one, right? What's the other one?
It's a regular Sabattus town page.
Right, the Sabattus Litchfield Wales page.
Yes.
You could ask the 3 towns to post it on their social media pages or their websites.
So-
Green Wales and Sabattus.
So I would go to the town and ask that?
No,
Or you could just email them. You don't even have to go.
Okay.
if you go on Facebook and search and put the word Sabattus in,
Yeah.
our page will come up. The Sabattus Yacht Club and Pond Association will come up.
Yeah.
The Sabattus Wales Litchfield Community page will come up.
There you go.
Sabattus Lake Fishing and Information. I'll throw all this in an email. Sabattus Lake Fishing and Information.
Okay.
So again, there's 4 of them right there.
Okay.
And I was going to say, if you do the same for Wales and Green, because I believe, when you search Facebook on Wales, you should come up with Mars Point Road Association
So I can search that on.
Facebook page.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm able to add that to their page.
Well, you don't.
I'd have to join that group and then.
Probably just have to make a post on their page.
Okay. Good.
Some of them are I think they may all be private, but some of them are public. But yeah, you throw, like they said, throw in Sabattus, do a search. Wales, do a search. Green, do a search.
Okay.
Danny was saying that some of these groups you have to be invited to join.
Yeah, that's right. I've seen that before, Ken.
That
Yeah,
shouldn't be a
most of them are pretty
problem.
good about getting back to you pretty quick.
Right. I was going to say, hopefully, the people we're looking for, are live on the lake. So hopefully they would let us into their,
Yeah, because I just I posted on our Sabattus Pond Watershed project. It's a limited audience,
We already know.
and I said, well, maybe if I stand up at City Hall, if I made up 1,000 of them, put 500, whatever at each town, and handed them out. Jeannie said, well, they'd probably just throw them on the trash when on the way out through, and not look at it. She said social media is the way to go, and I am just not a social media guy. I'm lucky I can handle.
Now, for what it's worth, we got close to 300 followers now on our page.
Yeah, we do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
And
mean, what do people think about finding the appropriate spot where whether we had a table or where, 2 or 3 or 4 of us hung out there for a bit and tried to get people's attention and handed stuff out. Maybe not for the stuff that you're talking about, Wayne, but trying to get them interested in joining the Facebook page or somehow getting involved. I don't know where that would be and if it would be fruitful, but it might be worth thinking about where we can go to.
You'd have to do some kind of a flea market table or something to that effect.
Yeah. I remember we went to Wayne, Maine, was the Strawberry Festival, and I just remember there was a table there that was focused on a lake association and invasive plants like that. So that's what I'm thinking about. Are there places we can go where we have a presence and people?
Well, I know in the town of Green they have old home days. I'm not sure about Sabattus and Wales. I don't know if they do it or not, but I know Green does. They have every year they have their
What
festival.
about the Lisbon thing that the Moxie, was that too far away?
There's a Moxie. Jeannie, my wife mentioned the Moxie Festival. That kind of stuff. I want to be able to.
Hmm.
Yeah, but again, I'm gonna do those websites, and if anybody.
actually, Wayne, I thought of another one too. Have you ever heard of MARA?
No.
So it's a Maine Alliance of Road Associations. So like the road we live on, we're a member of MARA, and maybe not most, but a lot of private roads are. So they may be someone that would, because there's a lot of private roads on this lake.
For sure.
Just to be able to, to find out that, oh, that road's a member of MARA. So, and again, it's, the main, Alliance of Road Association. So a lot of their members are on, waterfront.
I'm coming back to Maine on the 10th of May. So my goal is to try to get this out there, so people can understand when you mow your lawn, don't blow your clippings down the drain, because it ends up in the lake. All those things matter, So.
Oh yeah, no, they're all good points, and that's the thing. Maybe another question for Nick. Is it something that can be, higher up on our page, so it's right there when someone sees it?
Yeah.
Because right now I think it's buried down, half a dozen posts or something like that.
Exactly. It's like blends in with everything, every other post.
Yep.
I think when the pond's down, it's gonna get a lot of people's attention. They're gonna wanna know what's going on. And they'll be looking for more information.
Yes, I think,
Is there
Oh,
some way
I'm
we can
sure,
set up?
I'm sure it's gonna be an interesting 4th of July. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that's
There's
another
gonna be,
thing where,
there's gonna be, you know, though, all of those. I had no idea. Why didn't you tell me?
yeah,
Yeah.
Is there
that's,
some way we can set up something at the boat ramp? Where you have people putting in their boats for the spring, you know, for the summer season,
That's a
letting
good
them
idea.
know that the lake is coming down?
I would guess that the town's gonna probably post something there for that. But that's another case where if we did have some postcards or something, we could spread it around to the hardware stores and various different places around town that people might look at it when the water goes down and say, hey, what's this? Maybe this will tell me what's going on.
does anybody have any idea of it, have it had postcards made up? Yeah, I mean,
To see what the cost is.
see what the cost is? Has anybody ever done that?
And we've not,
Oh.
even if we just
Oh.
printed something on, you know, a half a page of, you know, print 2 on 1 page of paper.
I have a question,
Sure.
and I think I might have mentioned it at our meeting in August. Actually, I think I did. And this is more for the board. You know, we're looking at a very targeted audience here, correct?
Correct.
We are really only looking at and I'm probably off on this, the 385 properties that are on this lake, correct?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, because you've got a lot of boaters that come into the boat ramp. So they don't necessarily live on the lake.
Oh, well, I'm talking about Wayne's things about mowing the lawn, you know, lawn clippings and drainage and things like that.
Yeah,
And
okay.
for other communications. But anyway, just my thought, or actually, yes, my thought is, I think probably having a membership committee to try and drive membership to the association may be one of the best ways to accomplish what we're looking for. You know, even if they don't join the association, we can, you know, get a phone number, you can text something, get an email address, point of contact. So just wondering, has that been, you know, is there any, I guess, active membership recruiting, or is it just, you know, if people join, they join?
One of the things I was thinking about is all of us have friends on Facebook, right? We all have friends. Some of them live on the pond, around the pond, or don't. But if we share this information, just a general information on our Facebook page, it reaches another whole audience.
And what's wrong with trying to change the world for the better?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be specific to Sabattus Pond. It could be an awareness to all other ponds and lakes that,
Yeah, that's general shorefront information.
yeah, it's not just for us, it's for every other lake and pond and stream. And people, they may think about next time they spread fertilizer on their lawn, geez, maybe this, or they mow the lawn and blow the clippings out in the road instead of picking them up. Those kinds of things, you know, they don't think it matters because it's out of sight, out of mind. So that was just, you know, a thought about just, we all shared it with our friends.
Yeah,
Do the town meetings allow a table to be at the town meeting to distribute information like that?
Well, I don't know that the answer to that yet, Donna, but I know I'm gonna talk to the town hall when I get down there and see if there's anything they can help me with, like a bulletin they put out, or a web page they put out, or their monthly newsletter, and see if I can't get some help there. So I'm gonna work with the town of Green, because that's where I live.
well, the towns might even let us put out, you know, some kind of a flyer, you know, on the counters.
That's what,
People interested can take it.
because it all matters, you know. But that's what I wanted to talk about tonight, and I appreciate all the input. And
Well, that's the type of thing too, that if somebody designed some kind of a flyer like that, you could put it on 2 on 1 page and just print them on a regular printer.
yes,
I hear people over where we are talking about putting their docks in the summer and leaving it in all winter. I don't think that's legal, is it?
I've heard something to the effect that if it's in for more than 90 days or something to that effect, it's permanent, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, don't quote me, but I want to say it's 10 months,
Yeah.
if I remember. We've had
Yeah.
this conversation before, but yeah, I believe, and again, it's just, that's the
I
law.
tried,
So,
I tried leaving my,
and again, the law just says it has to be moved every 10 months. So,
Yep.
I tried leaving my dock in this past winter because the water was so low, and about mid-January, I had to pull it out.
Yeah.
right, yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, the dam will be done this fall, so, in our mind, the lake will fill quicker than it did last year. Because I forget when but we kept it open quite long last year to be able to get it low enough to have the contractors look at everything. So it most likely will be closed earlier than it was last year. So there will be a full lake for winter. So yes, you should pull your docks out.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, without it, yeah, there will be a full lake next winter. Or whatever. It will be filled like this winter. It will be filling, if you will, over the winter.
It didn't take long when the ice went out. It didn't take long for it to come up.
No,
No.
I mean, that's the thing. Like this year, we had so much runoff from up north. Whereas past few years we haven't really had any runoff, so it took, at times, forever for it to fill up, and then we get 4 inches of rain in a day.
It's high now. It's high now.
Yeah, it's got to be 2 or 3 inches above normal.
Yeah, I mean, this Saturday was so windy. It looked like an ocean.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
gets nasty out there.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I know we had snowdrifts coming
Beautiful,
up.
beautiful blue water, though, isn't it?
Oh,
Crystal
it's
clear. You can, yeah, crystal
So
clear.
We had
Beautiful water.
snowdrifts coming across the lake this year that left a full pile in my driveway about 4 feet high, and it turned to rock solid.
Oh, that's not pleasant.
No, we couldn't do anything with it.
Gary, to your point about membership drive, do we have a list of everyone around the lake?
Um,
Is there value to getting it or doing the work to sort of map
yes,
it?
no, yes, there is a value to getting it.
Taxpayer list from.
No, we're probably,
town.
yeah, taxpayer list, you just sort by, like in Wales, I forget what it is, lakefront 1 or 2, or, you just, but anyway.
Yeah,
Yes,
you have
there is a
map,
value to it, and it
Yeah.
is something, for the towns of Wales and Green. We've discussed this before, all of the owner information for anyone that lives on the lake will most likely be collected for the septic system survey. So yes, I would say, and again, not immediately, but in the coming time, at least those 2 towns will be collected. As far as Sabattus goes, because they're all on sewer, I would say probably again just tax records.
Yeah. Just
I've
thinking-
never been to their website, but I know Wales. Actually, I think I've been on. I know Wales is really good. I mean, it's very easy to search. Like I said, you can just search by lakefront or whatever the classification is. Green was a little cumbersome. They were all just PDFs. So you'd have to look at a tax map and just say, oh, property X, Y, and Z, and then search the PDFs. But yes, no, I mean, all that information is available, and, I think we should put it together as a database.
It might
Yeah,
not be a
We do
bad.
have, when we do need to reach out to people and say,
Um,
oh, we're getting a storm, or, oh, I mean, just,
Might not be a bad idea to reach out to everybody in each town, because there are people that don't live on the lake that use it.
Yeah, yeah.
More members we get are better.
Yeah.
if we could collect 80% of the information on just the people that live on the lake, I think that would be an amazing task.
You know what?
If we can go beyond that, that would be wonderful. I mean, this is,
Oh,
these are people that have summer houses that, it's property's owned by an LLC out of Florida that, you're never going to get the person's phone number or email address. You don't, you have no idea. So yeah, I mean, I think we'll collect the majority of it, but, I don't think we're ever going to get everyone on the lake.
One of the things I have found in my limited of being involved in this, at least I can speak for the town of Green, there are members of the town of Green who could care less about that pond. I mean, with the selectmen, they don't care about that pond. They don't see the urgency. They don't, and I'm speaking from it. I know because I've talked to that couple of those people.
Time to get them replaced.
Well, You're right, but they don't help. They don't help us in our effort.
No, you're right.
And it's hard to promote something when you've got people in the background who make decisions and
Trying to counter you.
care. And that's a hurdle that we have to get over, because these well, they don't get paid. I guess they're elected or they don't get paid, but they have a big voice.
What's their
And
perspective, Wayne? Why don't they see the urgency? They have other priorities that are important, or?
exact words were, "I don't give a shit about Sabattus Pond, Wayne." Exact words.
So you didn't really get the why, yeah.
Forget French, but that's exactly what he said. And it's hard to get through that. And I've had a couple of heated discussions with that gentleman, and he just and he spreads that within his zone area. So it's hard to get those people to buy on to wanting to clean up the pond. I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow.
What are their priorities? Roads?
What's that?
What are their priorities? Roads?
Well, their priority is anything but spending money. They don't want to spend money. They think Sabattus Pond's problem is the lakefront owners, period. We should be responsible to fix it. Just the ones that live on the lakefront.
And then put a fence around it so no one else can use it.
That's why they're charging us extra tax money.
I know, we are paying in more, yeah.
They want us, well, and I'm only speaking of a couple. I'm not speaking of, but
What's that philosophy that, when you're talking to a group, there's always going to be that, 10 or 20% that you'll never be able to persuade, and you don't waste time on those people.
Right.
You waste time, or you spend time on the people in the middle that, can be convinced.
yeah,
Not to minimize what you're saying, how they're influential, but it's got to figure out a way to just ignore them and try and reach other people, I
Well,
guess.
the hard part about that is they're the ones with the biggest mouth.
yep,
Yeah.
and that's the fact.
Just an observation. I'd never really, knew much about Green or Sabattus really before I joined the Dam Commission. I think I've been on about 10 years now, a little over 10 years. I can say that what you just said, Wayne, is completely consistent with everything I have ever heard.
Yep, there you go.
So,
Well, they showed it at town
I do
meeting.
think, it probably is something that needs to be addressed on, with, those people, with the citizens of Green. I know Wales has a very, very strong support for the lake. I know Sabattus does. But what you say, what Green has been consistent in all the time that I remember, on that stand.
So they were the ones that fought us the most last fall, last summer.
Yeah.
When you say Green, you're talking about the elected officials or even beyond that?
Yeah, I would say, honestly, I would say the noise that is heard, as we saw with the vote for the dam, if you remember the count for the vote for the dam, I think that speaks for itself. Although there was a lot of noise about, that it was going to be close, that it was, if you remember the time, but I forget the vote total, but it was not even close.
Right.
It was not even, it was not even, we went door to door. We knocked door to door. We put pamphlets in every door in Green that lives on the lake. And it wasn't even close. But all of the noise was, oh my goodness, Yeah.
That's why, because all the work that you've put in to get people to show up, a bunch of waterfront owners showed up, and they were the numbers. And so you get those two individuals, one selectman that you're talking about, Wayne, and then another taxpayer, and all they care about is the taxes
Right.
and screw the pond. So that selectman has been in this town for years. His name is part of Green. So it's not like just because we don't agree with his stance, we can elect somebody else. He's got some influence. He's been around.
Yep. Yep.
So that suggests that, Wayne, you might be right that paper media still does make a difference.
Yes.
Because according to Lou, it made a difference in Green when Gary was spreading the word with
Yeah,
paper.
but we'd knocked on every door.
Yeah. And
We literally knocked on every door in the town of Greene that is on this lake.
So it was your personal reaching out, your human reaching out, not just the paper media. It was your reaching out that made a difference.
Oh, that matters huge for so many people, yeah.
That's why there was such a big
I'm
turnout.
asking, is that what you're thinking, Lou? Is that going door to door is what made a difference?
That's a big part of it, as much as everything else that was put out there. That's why we had a big turnout. We put a lot of time. Normally, I don't know if you'd get that result, but that selectman will always be there. So we have to stay together like we did before. And
And
this group,
yeah, going back, whether it's membership committee or what you were talking about, Wayne, as far as, distributing information or even a web link, going door to door wasn't the worst thing.
it's a good thing.
I mean, we were talking earlier about who's going to send out letters or do 5 hours of this or 2 hours of that. I mean,
Well, the one-on-one
who's
contact.
to say that a few pairs of people can't go out door to door and, spread information and, tell people that don't know about the association, try to drive membership, try to drive interest.
Well, the personal contact door to door too, let people know that maybe this is something I should think about.
Yep.
Versus just picking up a piece of paper and reading it and say, well, I don't care.
Right. Or seeing it on Facebook and saying, oh, who are these people?
Right.
Yep.
I mean, this might, this is a little thing, but you get the t-shirts, you're going around town, maybe people see it and say, what's that? What's the Sabattus, Pond Watershed project? Or, then we go into sweatshirts. I mean, that's another way to sort of raise
Mhm.
visibility, maybe. People
Oh
see
yeah,
it,
without a doubt.
ask about it.
If I
Yep.
could just
You got to
add
have
to
merch.
this. Yeah, and I think what you're talking about too is a push marketing, not a pull. So the more that you push the information, the paper stuff is a pull. You're asking people to pull the information for you. People want it too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, hold on one second.
Wait a minute, Kim, I want to hear you.
I know. Yep.
So I think that like these are great ideas, but it has to be a push because people nowadays don't like, oh, look at there's a poster up there. I really want this information. Let me pull this tab. It's good to have it because they'll see it, but you have to keep pushing it. And Wayne, your stuff was great, but it has to be consistent. And
Yeah.
it has to be more than once because you never know. Like even on the people who live in Green or whatever the Green other Facebook pages, and there's a lot of people from other communities on it. You're only going to get the people who happen to see it that one time. So it's got to be stuff that we're very measured in. Like we're going to do this really good one, this week, the next week, and then when are we repeating it? So there needs to be a strategy about it. But I really think if I can remember back to my marketing classes, which were ages ago, it's the push. Yes, we have to have the presence. And like you said, where people are seeing it I was at one of those Wayne strawberry festivals and see that. So anything that we can have a presence but strategically, where is our theme? Where are people going to say, hey, didn't I just see something about Sabattus Pond? Or didn't I see you guys were talking about phosphorus? Yeah, this rings a bell. So, and I think this is great and, all of this, but it's got to, there's almost seems like there has to be some strategies behind it so that we're logging all this really great information and this great work and then systematically putting it out every single place that you are.
Yeah. Even it's something as simple as Wayne put out his thing. Some people like it, but we
Right.
should all be aware when we see this stuff, share it, reshare
Right.
it. So that now you got it popping up again and again and again and again.
Right.
It drives
And
me
to think
crazy when
about-
people just it's like, no, you got to
Right.
like it, you got to share it.
Right. And if this is, so one theme is always the first Monday of the month. The next month it's got to come out again because people miss it.
Yes.
I mean, just think about yourself. Sometimes you're active on Facebook and sometimes you're not. So if this information is so good, we want people you know, and even if you say, here, this is my weekly reminder of what's going on, here's my weekly reminder, so that people don't not, you know, they don't want to not see it anymore. But those are just some thoughts about, you know, everything that people are doing. I mean, think about what speaks to you. You know, but yes, and all of that, like I don't know Instagram, I don't know TikTok, but you're right. But you also have to think about what is the age of the audience that we're trying to go for. You know,
Right.
and hit those media sites. I mean, I don't do TikTok, but if there's a younger crowd that is owning or their parents are owning, then we want to hit TikTok because maybe they'll talk to their parents about it or their grandparents, like, you know, so everything is worth trying, but it's got to be consistent and it can't be a one-time shot.
Well, the next generation doesn't even read a newspaper. They
Right.
do everything social media. So that's where
Exactly.
that comes in.
And you're absolutely right, Kim, because my wife and I have grandchildren. I don't even want to swim in our lake.
No, I don't want to swim in our lake, and we just bought it a year and a half ago.
So you get this younger crowd is where we really need to impact because that are
Yeah,
taking over for
right.
us.
Right.
Well,
And
what
speak
about,
about one of the things, excuse me, one of the
oh,
things
yeah,
you
yeah.
talked about was the community. I was just even at Gowell's last summer and mentioned to somebody that we were on the lake, and she was just like, oh yeah, that place has always been dirty. Ever since I was a kid, and this was a woman in her 70s, ever since I was a kid, it's always been green, it's always been this. So there's an apathy. Even
Yeah.
if people may not like want, but there's an apathy towards trying to do it, whether people are interested or not. I think that that's what I felt from people, you know. And then when I was at the town meeting, even though I can't vote, there's very much about like the Allen Pond. They don't understand what we're going through because they have a committee. I mean, it's easier when it's one town and, you know, in the same town, and they can raise their money and they can make it more private and they can, you know, do that stuff. People just don't understand when it's 3 towns and the size that it is. They just don't have any interest.
We need to get the state interested.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We need to get
Exactly.
interested in the
I keep saying Nick. Gary, you talked about a recruiting committee or
Membership
membership
committee.
committee. Following up on what Kim said, what about maybe a marketing committee, a group that gets together and talks about ways to come up? You mentioned a plan, Kim.
Yeah.
Talk
I
about-
mean, you would almost, they would be one, in my mind, they would be one and the same.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
I mean, I don't think our membership has changed, has it? There's 18 members currently, if I remember from last month's meeting.
Ooh, that's not right.
Since January's who's paid.
Correct.
Yeah.
18 members. Yeah. So in whatever, 3 or 4 of them are on the board. So yeah, I don't think there's enough depth to have multiple committees, but yes, it would be nice to find someone that's,
Point
you
taken.
know, well, no, I think it would be nice to find some, you know, like I believe Kim said, you know, your granddaughter. Well, she's 16 and, you know, maybe she could help out, do Google searches for, you know, again, yeah, but I think, yeah, that would be a great thing to find someone that was tech savvy because let me just look down the room. It's none of us. You know, we barely make it door to door and be able to knock. Never mind. Yeah, come up. That was Nick's thing. You know, the Facebook pages and all that, the Instagram.
but Kim brings up a very good point. There's this stigma about the lake that it's always been that way. It's always going to be this way.
We've never been number one. You know, closest we got was 3. I think we're 5 now.
Yeah.
You know, as far as the worst. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I-
let me. It crushed me. You know, it was like the day after I bought my house in whatever 2004. And then I went to like get gas and I told them, I just bought a place on Sabattus Lake. They're like, oh, that's like the 3rd dirtiest lake in the state. I was
Yeah.
like, oh shit.
So
Yeah.
how do we get this? How do we reach the people we need to reach at the state level? I mean, do we let's bring in the news media? Let's bring in Channel 6, Channel 8, Channel 13. I mean, what does it take? I know we're one of many lakes, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So what do you do? I'm not. I don't. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I wanna think
You know,
about that.
you know what? I think um,
The
I
senator.
think right. I'm trying to think of the correct way to say this. You know, I think moving in the direction of, you know, building membership of the association. Because if all we have is a name
Yeah.
and 18 people,
Is it?
we really do not garnish statewide attention. You know, there's more members of our road association than there are ours of the lake association. So I think by expanding membership,
Yeah.
by getting someone that's a little media savvy that can push the message to those here. And I wasn't kidding about going door to door. If we only have 18 members, if every one of those 18 people went out and did their road and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, have you heard of?" and put, you know, a QR code or a website address or a Facebook address, I don't know, would that be the worst thing in the world?
Well, is it that, or is it because it costs money out of their pocket?
I think it's that. I think, you know, push. You have to push. These are our neighbors. You know, we want them to be involved. I mean, I want them to be involved. I want to hear, you know, if someone's got a, I want to hear everyone's opinion. I want to know, you know, what, you know, the majority thinks. I mean, that's how
I
we
mean,
move forward. I mean, it can't, again, you know, if there's the possibility of having 385 members, that's only that are residents on the lake. That doesn't include corporate members or people that, so if, you know, we're saying we can have 385, just to use a number, and we're at 18, you know, what do we need to grow membership. In order to do that, we need someone that can reach out to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever it is. So again, just my 2 cents. But yes, I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
we need,
You know, we're going in the right direction. We're
Period.
a nonprofit. We're, you know, we have application in process. We have, you know, things in motion.
we need
Right,
material to get out there. And you mentioned all those places, and they can easily do that, but I'd want to, okay, I need, what am I pushing out? Like, what is the material we're gonna send out to try and get people's attention?
And
Well,
And
I
that
think
all,
that's what Kim is saying,
I
that
mean,
we need to strategize.
Right.
And we need,
I totally agree. And to Wayne's point about contacting people from the state, Kim's point about messaging, you know, that's all a multi-pronged communications plan, right? With different, you know, there's a social media aspect, there's communications to the state aspect, there's, you know, the hard copy aspect, putting a table at Martin's Point and handing flyers out to people who come and put their boats in the water or who are just coming to fish. So that's, I think we need to figure out what the message is and then the communications plan of how to get that out in different ways. And the message might not be the same to the people who are putting their boats in as opposed to the state. So it's you know, and that's something that the board can talk about, but we'll need, it'll need some manpower.
What about, I don't
It's
know,
doable. It's totally doable.
I don't know what the colleges and universities, if they have any kind of communications or marketing programs. I'm gonna assume they do. I wonder if this would be a good opportunity for someone to work with us and come up with a marketing plan or communication plan, and then it's sort of on their resume, like, I
Yeah.
created this marketing and communication plan for this lake association. So it gives them some experience. We get it for free. I don't know. I don't know if that's something that's realistic, but
I mean, I
we're
think we
thinking
have a
about.
list. I think we have a list of at least 3, if not 5 contacts
Bates.
at
Bates
the
has a-
interns, at Bates. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
did
Georgia
the,
does
did
stuff.
the,
They
they
could do
did all
that
the
as a
studies. I
school
mean,
project.
we have their email addresses. I mean, I'm sure we could contact one of them and say, "Hey, could you help us out?"
Call a professor in the communication and marketing program at Bates and say, this is what we're looking for. We'd love an intern. We'd love, whatever, however we say it, but.
Yeah, because they could do that as a project in the school.
Right.
Or I mean, or to the point. I mean, they may not be in. I mean, I forget. It was the first time the guy from USGS knocked on my door. It was like 2018 or 2017. So they may not be interns anymore. They may be, you know, college graduates that are still looking for things to put on their resume.
Well, another thing last year, I got a lot of positive response just from the signs that I had on the boat. You know, regarding the town meetings and such. I got a lot of waves from people on shore.
Oh, good.
I mean, I wonder how when we have our annual meeting, that might be a somewhat short-term goal to try and get as many people there aware of it and to show up.
You know who I'd like to invite to the town meeting if they would come? Is the state representative for Sabattus Green in Wales.
Why not?
They should be there.
Doesn't hurt to invite them.
There you go, invite them. And actually, I was going to say, didn't we take a list of everyone that was at the annual
Who
meeting?
is that?
Didn't we take a list? Because there was like 40 people there, right? Or 50 people there?
Yeah, I think
We do have a list. We definitely have a
Right.
list. Someone has a list, maybe Nick.
Exactly. No. And I was going to say, I mean, we should just reach out to the whatever, the 22 people that didn't join the membership and just say, hey, did you miss the fact that we're, legit now? Do you want to join? I mean,
it's a start.
And come again to this year's party and please invite
all
all your
exactly.
members,
Yep.
all your neighbors.
Yep. Love seeing you last year. Please join us again. Yep, exactly.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's hard. And I thank you all. I appreciate everything we're saying here tonight. It's just, how do we get that out? Because we have all kinds of ideas, but what is the best, to Kim's point, what's the best way to get that out there so we're all coming from the same voice?
And it's multiple.
If
today's world-
if only someone knew, I think it's probably all of the above.
Yes.
And thank you for the topic, Wayne, because at 6:15, I was like, I got nothing else. So
Today's world-
this has been a really good conversation.
But we would have been already eating dinner if it wasn't for Wayne, is what you're telling me.
No. I'm just, normally they keep it to an hour. We're at an hour. If you guys are fine with talking, I'm fine with that. Just
Always the troublemaker, Gary. You will find that out in this group. I am the troublemaker in this group.
well, every group needs one. Every group needs one.
The problem
But
with
no, I don't think that one other thing I wanted to share with you guys. I don't think we're going to find the answer to your question tonight, Wayne.
Right.
But I really appreciate you bringing it up. And I think I've made a list here. I mean, hopefully
today's society,
this list and
multiple
it doesn't end up as
avenues.
kindling for a campfire. But, hopefully, we find someone that has that sort of intellect and get up and go. And like I said, maybe, someone you may know. But one thing I wanted to mention, and it was interesting that I think it came up 2 or 3 or 4 times today in this conversation about the quality of the water of the lake. There was a picture in Nick's watershed assessment. Actually, it was a picture I took of algae. And just want to throw this out there. I'm not endorsing anything by any means. But this summer, I am going to get I believe I'm going to get a 3-acre aeration system. So there's a billion different websites you can go to. I'm not going to tell anyone any one, but you go to how to clean up the water around my lake or, ponds, whatever it is, but it's kind of ingenious. I've been looking at it for probably a decade now, used in other applications for business. But basically what it is an air compressor that gets put at the shoreline, depending on how big of an acre, how far from the house, so on and so forth, depends on the size of the compressor. And then in this case, for the 3-acre system, there are 4 pods that are about 6 or 8 inches in diameter that have a hose connected to them. And you go out and you just drop the pods out in the water and you turn the aerator on and it runs 24/7. And what it does is what we've always talked about. All we talk about is, it's green. Oh my God, it's yellow. It's blue. I can't believe the algae this year. And we mentioned it earlier. Right now, you look at the water, it's crystal clear. We're the cleanest water in the world, and it's because it just melted. It's cool and it's aerated.
Yep.
So hopefully when the vegetation starts, there'll be enough aeration in the water around my property that my shoreline will be crystal clear. It will only do, like I said, the system I'm buying is a 3-acre system. You can get half-acre systems, 1 acre. An acre is 40,000 square feet, 44,000 square feet. So do the math as far as, what it would clear in front of your house or property. But just something as a final note, I was just going to throw out there. I'll let you know how it works, but
So, Gary,
Yep.
I don't want to rain on your parade, but I just want to add 2 cents to that. Because I have a neighbor here that had an aeration system like that.
Yeah.
And he was running it 24/7. And it disturbed my quality of life in terms of noise.
There's a cabinet that goes around it.
So
So there's no ambient noise.
So what is the idea of a cost on that, Gary?
It would all depend on the system. I mean, you could, say,
Are we talking hundreds or thousands?
that's it for a very small system. You're talking, high hundreds. For, a larger system, you're talking probably 3 or 4,000, 2 or 3,000.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Quality, and again, obviously you're not going to put it next to your neighbors. Well, hopefully someone doesn't. But yes, noise, that was one of my concerns too, Donna. I mean, I listen to the birds every day and the eagles. I don't want to listen to, generator running in the, backyard. But
right.
no, the one I'm looking at, has a little, kind of like a storage container, but it's got insulation on the inside of it, noise canceling insulation. So it doesn't make really any noise at all.
Go for it.
So, yeah. And anyway, where's my closest neighbor?
You own all the property.
I got you on that one. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because I have always heard the complaints, and I agree with you. The water is horrible at certain times of the year and days, and water flows and everything else. But it's just something I'm going to try just for the heck of it, just because, like I said, I've looked into it. So Donna, let me ask you: besides the noise that disturbed your Zen, did it work? Did it work?
Well, after I complained, he took it out.
But until you complained, did it work?
It wasn't there long enough. To see how influential I am.
Oh, I know how influential you are.
There's also, Gary, another perception, and it's not a big perception, but there's a perception that the water turns green because of seasonals. Us snowbirds come back from Florida. We move into our camps, and next thing you know, the water turns green.
Really? People think that?
Yeah, well, not a lot, but I've heard it. Because
the majority of I've ever heard is chicken poop and horse shit.
Septic systems and gray water and you name it, it's
Oh,
associated.
well, I mean, I don't know that. I mean, you sent out paperwork on it. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt that does not help the lake.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question about that. Actually, yeah, next time I'll share with you. I'm doing some research just for that septic system thing. Research on, mechanical and biological septic systems, and they actually have ones out now that are amazingly good at phosphorus dissipation, which would be huge for our lake. But self-standing systems, you don't need a leach field. Boom, gets put in, treated, the water gets ejected.
Oh,
Really pretty cool. Yeah.
I'm sure there's probably a bunch of people who blame the Massachusetts people like us.
Well,
Assholes.
It's
us.
the Massachusetts people. It's our fault.
I'm a masshole. I started it years
All
ago.
our fault. See,
Yeah.
Look
there's
at
the
him now.
birds or the sunbirds, and then there's the
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And again, I was always told it was the chickens or the horses, so anyway, everyone's got their theory
And
on
the
the
cow.
story, but
and that's
cows, yeah.
there's all these perceptions that come to play in all this.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to get out the literature or whatever it takes to try to change that perception and help us fix the problem instead of blaming it on the problem.
oh, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And I completely agree. Let's say 50 years ago, 70 years ago, when everything got built around the lake, there was no good solution.
Right.
It's a small piece of property. You don't have a room for a septic system. You don't have a room for leach field. That was 60, 70 years ago. Nowadays, I mean, the only barrier is monetary, because they build systems that will go on any residence anywhere, very small footprint. So, It's just a matter of getting as much of that out of the lake as possible, like everything else, like trying to get, the weeds and everything else, the phosphorus out of the lake.
I mean, I wish, we'll never be able to do this, but, in a perfect world, we had the money for some sort of study or survey to sort of see what people's feelings are, which would then help inform us about how to do exactly what we're talking about.
Mm.
Convince them to join, convince them to take part,
Yeah.
what, do they use the lake? If they do, how? If they don't, why not? That kind of thing.
Yeah,
Mm.
good point. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining in on that. I'm sorry I kept you past the 7 o'clock hour, but
No,
Oh,
I feel like
no,
it's a
that's
good
quite all
conversation.
right. Thank you all for my
Ideas.
making my first time not as painful as other firsts have been.
Nice job.
Good job, Gary.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, no problem at all. Thank you all for joining. And I don't have a date right now. Like I said, I'm a sub, so Nick will send something out or whatever. Something will get sent out, but I would assume it'll be a month from now on a Wednesday.
all right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Good job.
Good night,
Everyone.
all. See you
Yeah.
later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
How do you get out of here?